أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد صدق الله العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, say, He is Allah, the One, Allah the Eternal. He begets not, nor is He begotten, and there is no one comparable to Him. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Islam for Europeans. And I'm doing a reaction video to a recent clip that I saw from Brother Mohammed HIjab, who's been in Norway recently. And I was actually pleasantly surprised. So I have nothing but positive things to say about this video. He actually made a couple of videos. He's in Norway, and he made one video asking Norwegians on the street about what they think about Islam. And just recently, he made another video asking them what they think about the Qur'an being burned. Okay, so I'm just going to give you my analysis of those videos. Now, I know I've been very critical, of the whole UK Dawah crew over the past couple of months. And, a lot of it comes from the fact that, like many people, they have to spend most of their time on social media, and that's basically like, the way of the world now. That's how you communicate, with millions of people like we're doing on this channel. And, I think that those videos and just hanging out around social media and being around that atmosphere has really skewed Muslims' perceptions of non-Muslims, not just in the Anglosphere, but in other non-Muslim spheres, and vice versa, because social media is basically the worst place to make assumptions about what any given population thinks about things, right? So just take a look at Muslims who interact on social media, with non-Muslims, specifically like we call the anti-Islam faction of the right, because they draw at each other like magnets. And some hate preacher or someone who does like Muslims starts posting things about Islam that are negative, and he's going to get a whole bunch of likes because his followers are going to be just think just like him. And the Muslims who post these things, they're always being trolled by your ex-Muslims like your apostate prophet and Harris Sultan, and the anti-Islam crowd like David Wood, and this neoliberal establishment approved right, like for example Jordan Peterson. And I don't even consider Jordan Peterson as a center-right modernist. So these are the only people that generally interact with Muslim leadership on social media, and it created a really bad perception of what I guess the Muslim populace thinks about the non-Muslim Anglosphere. And I think that's part of the reason why Mohammed HIjab did these videos, because I guess he felt like he wanted to get out there, talk to the public, and ask people what they really think about Islam. And he probably realizes that that the perception of the non-Muslim Anglosphere is skewed, to a degree. So in that sense, I commend him for making this video. I'll leave the link in the description below, asking Norwegians about what they think about the Quran being burned, right? And the overwhelming majority of people said that he interviewed said that they didn't agree with it. They said, why would you, want to do that to somebody's religion? I mean, yeah, we have freedom of speech, but, that's going way beyond the pale, when you're burning books. I mean, a lot of people said no holy book or no book should be burnt in the first place, right? So, so I think it's a really good thing. I think that, he can, mashallah, like he's got a lot more newer, I think during Ramadan, like he's thinking about things a lot more positively. And, this is in stark contrast to the video he made a few months ago, basically equating, the fact that the LGBT agenda is a doing of quote unquote, the white man, right? And which is just totally a turnoff, to us as converts trying to give dawah to our non-Muslim, families and communities. So in that sense, I think it's great that he did this video, and this video is made specific. I hope that inshallah maybe he gets to actually see this analysis of this video I've made. So in that sense, I think it's great, and I think that if you were to watch one video of maybe David Wood and debating Muslims on the internet, and another video of Mohammed HIjab interviewing people, you probably might come to the conclusion that the same conclusion that we hold at Islam for Europeans, that opinions on Islam in the Anglosphere range from highly negative to highly positive and everywhere in between, right? And you can kind of come to that conclusion as you will. But I just want to make my second point, and this is no fault to Mohammed HIjab, because I don't think that this was ever his intention, but it's definitely not a scientific survey. It's not I know it's he put it that it's a social experiment, but you're not going to get a representative sample of the population, either by basing your opinions about the non-Muslim Anglosphere on social media, or the events that have been unfolded with Jordan Peterson over the last couple of months, nor are you going to get a representative sample by the method that Mohammed HIjab and his crew interviewed the people in Norway. And like I said, that's not a fault on Brother Mohammed. He's doesn't have a lot of time on his hands. He's a very busy man, so he doesn't really have the time to think about, okay, how are we going to conduct an actual experiment that controls for as many biases as possible, right? So in that sense, as long as we keep in mind that we take these kind of videos at face value, and don't make any kind of assumptions in one way or the other, one direction or the other, about what non-Muslims actually believe about Islam and Muslims, right? So because for me, I would coming from my point of view and my experiences 20 years being a convert, you might think, okay, well, are you critiquing this video in this particular way, that you thought that it should have been more I guess scientific? And my response to that is, well, I wish that we at some point could have a scientific study where we actually survey non-Muslims with in-depth questions, and ask demographic questions, and that way we can really get an in-depth view of what the non-Muslim populace, particularly the Anglosphere, thinks about Muslims and Islam, right? And we're living in the age of social media, and people have very short attention spans. We're living in the age of TikTok, so Mohammed HIjab's videos, and just like any other video of a successful YouTuber, they have to keep the the time tight, 10 minutes or less, because people have short attention spans. So I'm just going to go through what could have been done to make an actually more scientific survey, so you can actually get a more representative sample of the population that you're trying to interview, right? Because it wasn't a scientific survey in any sense of the word. And like I said, this is not Muhammad's fault, but for example, just the fact that the interviews are being conducted in a large city, I'm assuming he's in Oslo. The urban populations tend to be more open-minded, less conservative, and so just right off the bat, it's not like you might get it, not a less representative sample or a different kettle of fish when you go out, if you go out into small towns and interview people there, or if you were to just take a database of people from all across Norway and just ask them on an anonymous survey, then you might get a more representative sample of what you're trying to get at. And that brings me to my next point, is that anonymity and confidentiality in any type of social science experiment. And again, for those who haven't seen my channel, I have a master's degree in social psychology, so this is my field of expertise. The reason why I do anonymous surveys or confidential surveys is, especially when it comes to questions about sensitive information, is that people, they don't want to, sometimes they may be very afraid to disclose this information publicly, right? So it's better to ask them on an anonymous survey, and that way there's no way to trace them back to what the responses are. Because think about it, not just, you know, you're not just interviewing people on the street, but you're doing it publicly, and this, you know, video is going to be broadcast to the whole world, right? So it might be more likely that if they have, you know, negative or controversial attitudes towards Islam, that they don't want to say this on camera, first of all, because, you know, they might get in trouble with their job, they might get in trouble with the university that they go to, you know, so that's one thing. You know, another thing is that, you know, we have what's called a attraction bias, right? So, you know, obviously the people that, you know, Mohammed HIjab and his crew, you know, they look visibly Muslim, like, you know, that they're Muslim, right? Even before they, you know, they start talking to you. So, you know, when they start talking about Islam, even when you're talking to somebody on the street, you know, they may be more likely to express views that they may not say in front of you, but they may say in front of someone like me, right? So even if they have no fear about, you know, losing their job and things like that. And again, I'm not saying these things to rain on Muhammad's parade. I mean, I think it's wonderful that he made this video because it gives Muslims, you know, another perspective on what non-Muslims think about Islam, right? You know, other biases, you know, you have to think about, you know, selection bias. So not just, so the people who came to the interview, you know, if they have a positive attitude or neutral attitude or inquisitive attitude about Islam, they may be more likely to, you know, be drawn to someone like Mohammed HIjab and ask him questions, right? You know, also, you know, like you're yourself, I mean, when you're doing an interview like this, you know, you know, have your hypothesis on your own. And, you know, the whole point of this video was to dispel myths and misconceptions about Islam. So he's going to reach out to people more, or may just, you know, by default, subconsciously pick out people, you know, that may sort of fit the category, right? And then finally, attrition bias. So, you know, people, you know, if people have like anti-Islam or very right-wing views, you know, even if they have nothing to do with Islam, you know, for example, like someone might say, "Oh, no one's going to say I'm a national socialist on camera," or say that, you know, they voted for a far right-wing party on camera. They may, you know, be more reluctant to talk to Mohammed HIjab in the first place, right? So that's why, you know, at Islam for Europeans, we're conducting this survey that is going to be as anonymous as we can make it. People are going to fill out forms, and, you know, when they're done with the questionnaire, they're going to fold it up and put it in a box that'll be opaque, so we won't be able to see the responses, and we're not filming them. So, you know, at the end of the day, we go home, take our pile, and we plug in all of our data, and then that way, you know, it can't be traced back to the person who made the responses. So that eliminates some of the biases, you know, with this particular study, right? So, you know, but again, you're never going to be able to fully eliminate these biases. So the goal is to create, you know, a sample of people who are reflective of the population they're trying to get at, right? So, and, you know, as well, you know, like to do a study like this, you know, like, you know, and Mohammed HIjab, he asked the question, you have basically one or two questions. You know, what do you think about Islam? What do you think about the Quran being burnt? Which are important questions, and I'm glad that he asked them. I think it's wonderful that he made a video like this, you know, but and the end of the day, what we're trying to do is a multivariate analysis. Like the questions he asked is basically a univariate analysis. There's no other data points. You're just asking straight up people on the street, what do you think about these things? Whereas for the study that we're doing, you know, it's going to take a look at age, political affiliation, gender, you know, religion, you know, like political leanings, and then that way you can get a more deep analysis of what, you know, people think based on those demographics. And the questions we're going to ask are more in depth as well. So, you know, the questions that he asked were basically about Islam itself. But, you know, what we're doing is also asking about things related to what do you think about Muslims, right? So, so yeah, I mean, I think that if we were to conduct this, this particular survey, which we're going to do inshallah after Ramadan ends, and film it probably wouldn't get nearly as many views as Muhammad's videos, which is understandable. Like I said, he he did this video because he wants to get other perspectives from people on the street. He's not thinking like, like the study I'm doing has no there's just so many biases, you can't even like you could fill a whole social science class with the study that you've done. But again, social media is not a good example either. And a lot of people, a lot of Muslims who have negative attitudes towards the Anglosphere, they only see the negative aspects of social media, the anti-Islam people, and cursory interactions they have with people on the street. So it's not a good sample, of what people actually think about Islam. So yeah. So and then finally, and I know if Mohammed, if you're watching this video, I'd love to talk to you more, either off the record or in a video. But they're asking questions because they want to build this masjid in Norway. So they're in the beginning of one of the videos, one of his guys said, we want to be able to change. How can we want to ask how can we change the narrative on Islam, right? So anyone who's been watching my channel for a while, we have our opinions on this, and it's totally not in the script. It's a outside the box solution. But basically it's as follows. I mean, the way to change the narrative on Islam, if you want to really know, take it from a white convert of 20 years, and our constituents as well, who make up, converts of various European backgrounds, is that the right is divided into two basic schisms. One schism on the right is one that you've been talking to the whole time, that have been platformed by the establishment, your Jordan Petersons, your Ben Shapiro's, your Matt Walsh's, right? And they're always going to have this kind of anti-Islam bias, and they prove very treacherous in talking if they're ever going to talk to Muslims. So that's one faction on the right, and that's the faction that you always see because they're allowed to exist on social media. Now, there's another faction of the right that they're not telling you about because this faction has been largely deplatformed, and their attitudes towards Islam range from negative to positive. Very few of them have been interviewed by Muslims, and it's not the fact that Islam is present in Europe now; it's the fact that they feel that their culture is dying out. Right? So I'm saying this not because we want to make an alliance with these people, because they still have these kind of negative attitudes towards immigration in general. But what I'm getting at is that the Muslim communities, especially in Europe, especially in the Scandinavian countries, need to start a communitarian approach to the Dawah. And what I mean by that is that the people who do convert to Islam from those countries should collectivize into a sub-community where they're still interacting with the greater Muslim community, but at the same time, they have the ability to talk to each other's families and communities, because that's one of the most important things to keep people within the fold of Islam. B, to create an authentic synthesis of their traditional culture within Islam. So bring in the traditional dress, cuisine, in a halal way, the architecture even. So that way their people will see that Islam is adaptable to their culture, right? And the best way to do that is to advise the converts that, look, you guys know your problems the best, so you guys should start your own organization, your own sub-organization, and you guys need to work on your own people, right? And that way you function as an organization that is catered to helping out people convert to Islam within Norway, and other European countries, and also keep them within the fold of Islam. Right, so that's how you can change the narrative on Islam. It's not the fact that people have problems with Islam per se. It's just that when someone does convert to Islam, they're seen as a traitor to their culture and their people. But if these people convert as a group, then that it changes, flips the script completely on the narrative that Islam is culturally predatory. And on top of that, the whole argument from this schism of the right that I was talking about is that um, it's not the fact that there are more Muslims, right? It's the fact that there are just fewer of them. There are fewer Europeans. Their birth rates are falling. But if you take this approach and they're largely marrying each other and starting their own sub communities, then we could say, look, we have a Norwegian Muslim sub community right here. They've largely married each other. They're still a part of the greater Muslim community. They still pray with us. They still give salam to us on the street. They still fulfill all our rights. They still go on Hajj. They still fast with us. But they have an authentic synthesis of their urf within Islam, right? So that is my sincere advice on how to change the narrative on Islam. And I sincerely hope that Mohammed HIjab and his crew actually see this. And I'm going to tag him on this video. And finally, he mentioned that video that there should be an aftercare program for converts to Islam. And I touched upon this briefly, a few minutes ago. But the most important thing in having an aftercare program for the converts is that there needs to be something in place so that they can ameliorate the situation with their non-Muslim family and community, right? Because the converts that you normally see already have a good relationship with their family. Either they have no problem with them converting to Islam, so converting to Islam isn't a problem for them, or their family's just not in the picture, or their family's already rejected them, so it's not going to matter at that point. But I think what's holding a lot of regular Europeans from converting to Islam is A, like I said, the feeling of being a cultural traitor, and B, the fact that no one will be there to mitigate the relationship they have with their mother, their father, their brothers, their sisters. So having a Norwegian sub-community of Muslims, one of their mandates should be, when someone converts to Islam, they should ask them, how is the relationship with your mom, your dad, your aunts, your uncle? Would they be open to talking to another Norwegian convert or a group of Norwegian converts, whether that's over the phone or at a neutral location like a coffee shop? Because non-Muslims, by and large, even if they have a positive or neutral opinion on Islam, they don't want to go to a masjid, and for the most part, Muslims, born Muslims, don't want to enter their spheres either, for good reason. I mean, they do a lot of haram things, like they don't want to go into an area where alcohol is involved. But there needs to be something in place where we can help improve the relationship with their non-Muslim family. Okay, so that's my time for the day. Please like and subscribe to Islam for Europeans. Mohammed, if you're watching this, Ramadan Kareem. May Allah accept your fasts and your families and your crew at your YouTube channel as well. And I am always open to talk. Like I said, great job with those videos. I think, you understand that, there are opinions on Islam that are very positive, that are within the Anglosphere. And I'm glad that you went out there and actually talked to people. I just wanted to make this video partly because I hope that Muslims realize that it wasn't never meant to be a scientific study, and neither is basing your opinions on the Anglosphere from social media. But I think that it's very important for Muslims or Muslim organizations to conduct very sound scientific survey research on the non-Muslim population that eliminates as many biases as possible, whether that's surveys or focus groups, because it's a very delicate time. We're trying to present Islam to the European population, and we need to know what their opinions are on Islam and Muslims moving forward, so that way it'll have benefits not just for the converts, but for the entire all the Muslims living in the West and the Muslim Ummah abroad. Okay, done. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.